Helen lived in a small, quiet town where everyone knew each other. She was a loving wife to Jude, who worked as a mechanic. Their life was simple but filled with happiness. They had a cozy home, and every evening, they enjoyed dinner together, sharing stories about the day. Helen loved Jude deeply, trusting him completely. But there was something about Jude that she did not know. One rainy evening, Helen returned home from work, her shoes squelching on the wet floor. She found Jude sitting at the kitchen table, his head resting on his arms. He looked tired, more than usual. Helen's heart sank. "Jude, are you okay?" she asked, rushing to his side. Jude looked up, forcing a smile. "Just a long day," he said. Helen could tell he was hiding something, but she decided not to push him. Instead, she prepared dinner, trying to lighten the mood with small talk and laughter. Jude joined in, but his eyes were distant. As the days went by, Helen noticed more changes in Jude. He often came home late and sometimes smelled of smoke, even when he claimed he was at work. Helen worried but tried to convince herself that he was just busy. After all, they had bills to pay, and Jude had a lot on his plate. One day, while cleaning the living room, Helen stumbled upon an old box in the closet. Inside were letters addressed to Jude, with a woman's name she didn't recognize, Clara. Her heart raced. Helen took a deep breath, trying to calm herself. She opened one of the letters. It was filled with sweet words and memories, speaking of a time shared together. Confused and hurt, Helen decided to confront Jude that evening. She set the table, her stomach in knots. When Jude walked in, his usual smile faded when he saw her serious face. "What's wrong, Helen?" he asked, a hint of worry in his voice. Helen took a deep breath. "I found some letters, from a woman named Clara." The room fell silent. Jude's face paled. He looked down, unable to meet her gaze. "Jude," Helen pressed, her voice trembling. "Who is she?" Jude hesitated, his hands clenching into fists. "It's complicated," he finally said, his voice barely a whisper. "Complicated." Helen felt anger rising inside her. "Jude, you need to tell me the truth." He ran a hand through his hair, looking defeated. "Clara was my first love. We were together before you and I met. We lost touch for years, but she reached out to me a few months ago. I didn't know how to tell you." Helen felt a mix of emotions, betrayal, sadness, and confusion. "You should have told me, Jude. Instead, you hid it from me." "I didn't want to hurt you," he replied, his eyes pleading. "We were just catching up. It meant nothing." "Nothing," Helen scoffed, tears filling her eyes. "You've been lying to me, Jude. What else are you hiding?" Jude looked pained. "I promise, it was just friendly. I swear I love you. You are my life." Helen wanted to believe him, but the letters painted a different picture. "Why didn't you just say so? Why keep it a secret?" "I thought it was over," Jude said, desperation creeping into his voice. "But when she came back into my life, I was scared to lose you. I didn't know how to handle it." The argument hung in the air, heavy and uncomfortable. Helen felt torn. She loved Jude, but trust was fragile. How could she move forward when he had kept such a big part of his past hidden from her? Days turned into weeks, and though they tried to mend their relationship, the trust was shattered. Helen found herself questioning every moment they shared. Was he really with her, or was he thinking of Clara? One evening, Helen decided she needed space. She took a walk through the town, the crisp air biting at her skin. She wandered aimlessly, lost in her thoughts, until she found herself at the old park where she and Jude had spent many happy moments. Sitting on a bench, she recalled their laughter, the promises they made to each other. But now, those memories felt tainted. Suddenly, she heard footsteps. Turning, she saw Jude approaching, concern etched on his face. "Helen, I've been looking for you," he said, sitting beside her. "Please, let's talk." Helen turned away, her heart aching. "What's there to say, Jude? You kept a huge secret from me." "I know, and I'm sorry. I was foolish," he said, his voice shaking. "I never meant to hurt you. You mean everything to me." Helen looked into his eyes, searching for sincerity. "How can I trust you again?" she asked, her voice breaking. "How do I know this won't happen again?" Jude took her hands in his grip firm but gentle. "I'll do anything to earn your trust back. I'll cut all ties with Clara. I want you to know that you are my only love." Tears streamed down Helen's cheeks. "You say that, but it feels like I'm competing with a ghost." Jude's face filled with anguish. "You're not. Clara is part of my past, but you are my present and future. Please give me a chance to prove it." Helen looked down, feeling the weight of her decision. She loved Jude deeply, but her heart ached with doubt. "I need time," she finally said. "I can't just forget everything." "I understand," Jude replied, his voice soft. "I'll wait for you, no matter how long it takes. Days turned into weeks again. Helen tried to focus on her work and her friends, but the pain lingered. She found herself wondering if she would ever fully forgive Jude. Every time she saw him, she remembered the letters and the trust that had been broken. One evening, she received a call from Clara. Helen's heart raced as she picked up the phone, unsure of what to expect. "Hello," she said, her voice steady but nervous. "Is this Helen?" Clara's voice was soft, almost hesitant. "Yes, it is. What do you want?" Helen replied, trying to keep her composure. "I want to talk to you about Jude," Clara said. "I know he reached out to you, and I don't want to interfere. I just want you to know that I never meant to come between you two." Helen felt a wave of anger. "But you did. You wrote him letters, and he hid them from me." "I didn't know he was married," Clara said. "We reconnected as friends, but I respect your relationship. I promise, I'm not trying to take him away from you." Helen listened, torn between anger and understanding. "Why did you reach out to him?" Clara sighed. "I was feeling lonely and thought of Jude. I remembered our good times, but I never wanted to hurt anyone." As they talked, Helen began to see Clara not just as an enemy but as another person caught in a complicated situation. "I don't want drama, I just want to know the truth about Jude," Helen said, her voice firm. "I can assure you, he cares about you deeply," Clara replied. "He told me how much he loves you. I only wanted to rekindle a friendship." After the call, Helen sat in silence, reflecting on everything. It was clear that Jude had chosen her, but the fear of losing him still lingered in her heart. She decided to give him another chance. That evening, as they sat together, Helen looked into Jude's eyes. "I've been thinking," she started. "I want to try to rebuild our trust." Jude's face lit up with relief and gratitude. "Thank you, Helen. I promise I'll do everything I can to show you that I'm yours." They talked late into the night, sharing their fears and hopes. They agreed to be open with each other, to communicate more and to make their relationship stronger. Over time, Helen and Jude worked hard to heal their bond. Jude cut off all contact with Clara, proving his commitment. Slowly, Helen learned to trust him again. They made new memories together, going on weekend trips and exploring new hobbies. The laughter returned to their home, and with it, a sense of peace. But even as they moved forward, the shadow of the past lingered. Helen knew that it would take time for her heart to heal completely. However, she also realized that love is a journey, filled with challenges and growth. One evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset, Helen took Jude's hand. "I'm glad we're together," she said, feeling the warmth of his grip. "Me too," Jude replied, looking into her eyes. "I'll never take you for granted again." And with that promise, they both understood that while the past might always be a part of them, it didn't have to define their future. They were willing to face whatever came next, hand in hand, heart to heart.